Called the biggest ever security breach in the Indian banking sector, where 32 lakh debit cards have been compromised. Yours could be one of them. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley has sought a report from banks on the security breach. The Department of Economic Affairs claims the hacking was done from outside India. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley has said the government is attempting to limit the damage. 32 lakh debit cards of various public and private sector banks are feared to have been compromised by cyber malware attack in some ATM systems. State Bank of India has advised its customers to use the bank's own ATM network and not others. Now let's quickly tell you what exactly has happened. What is this bank fraud? So we are explaining this in 5 simple steps. What do these hackers actually do? Step number 1. The hackers infect a bank's server by attempting to send an infected email, almost like a virus. So that is sent to, in fact, email usually contains virus, or malware is the technical word for it, to hack into the payment gateways also. Not just email, but also payment gateways. Step number 2, when you make a payment online or transact using ATM, that is when you put the card into the ATM machine, the keystrokes like your PIN number, other details are mirrored. That means someone is monitoring what you have just typed, and hackers get access to details like PIN, passwords, etc. Step 3. This hacked data is then sent to cyber criminals. So there's one person who's doing this and then giving it or selling it off also to cyber criminals. Step 4. These criminals mimic bank procedures, which means they will pretend as if they are the bank and then carry out this attack. So, the favorite at this moment, this time around, according to the government, is using these automated payment gateways to steal money. We have heard of ATM frauds, but this is new. So every time you use your credit card or debit card to make some payment using a payment gateway, say on certain e-commerce websites, that is where the potential damage is happening. Step number 5, cyber criminals impersonate details, which means they will become you because they are armed with all the details that you have. Withdraw cash using clone cards, that is your ATM card which will be cloned to look exactly like yours, and transfer money using net banking, which is using those gateways, as well as net banking, which is also a feature on the internet. The step 5 also includes e-payment gateways, as we were telling you, also used to fraudulently send payments overseas. So there have been various cases that the government has been able to highlight of this happening, and this is why the panic. We have Pawan Duggal, a cyber law expert, who's joining us at this moment. Pawan, my pointed question to you is, how much should we be panicking at this moment?
Well, I think we need to be concerned. It's not a case of panic because absolute security does not exist, but this should be a huge wake-up call. The biggest cyber security breach in Indian financial sector. I call it a cyber attack on Indian economy, and also it's a cyber terrorism act because it's ultimately aimed at triggering off terror in the minds and hearts of the people who use the ATM economy. So more significantly, this wake-up call should also be to the fact that India needs to do far more on protecting and preserving cybersecurity, including coming up with a dedicated legislation on cybersecurity, which we still don't have. Our national cybersecurity policy of 2013 continues to be a paper tiger, and our lip service continues. So hopefully this kind of an event, which is the first but definitely not the last, should actually wake us out of our deep slumber.
Pawan, I have my debit card in my hand and I'm wondering if it's safe. How do I know that my debit card is safe?
Well, today everybody's debit card is potentially under some shadow, so best is please go ahead and change your PIN. That's the first. Please go and lower your limits that you can. Don't share your details, your PINs with anyone. If you want to do any transaction online, do it on a secured HTTPS website, and basically have an SMS alert so that you are on top of your transactions. Any unauthorized transactions come in, please don't be silent. Report to the police or to the bank or the credit card agency, and finally inculcate a culture of cybersecurity in your day-to-day digital habits.
Now, Pawan, one common criticism here is, I say this with experience, India has perhaps some of the toughest mechanisms that have been put in place as far as these payment gateways are concerned. You first have to put in your OTP, which will come as an SMS on your phone. Despite all these things, if you have malware or if you have potential hackers cracking this, then what is safe? I mean, there are some international websites that do not follow these things. They don't have a one-time password system. They don't have a special PIN that is generated all the time. So despite the fact that we have so many checks and balances, still this is happening.
Yeah, primarily because there's nothing known as absolute security. Every system, every computer in the world is capable of being hacked. And you have to quickly realize that the cyber criminals of today are in the form of state and non-state actors, organized gangs, whose primary job is to be 10 steps ahead of law enforcement. And invariably, they use some high-end encryptions, some great tools to hide their electronic footprints. And by and large, we have a big challenge in our own hands. So I think we need to adopt small cyber hygiene habits to be careful, so that we don't become the weakest link in the chain, but ultimately every stakeholder has to contribute towards making cybersecurity a more secure ecosystem.
Pawan Duggal, we're going to leave it there for the moment. Thanks very much for your insights. So what can you and I do in the face of this big fraud? Well, just change your PIN number tonight itself if you can.
To start with.
To start
At least to start with. Or go back to the old days where our parents, the best investment that came to them.
That is not possible anymore.
Absolutely.
You realize that.
But they know nothing about net banking, and perhaps they're the safest at this moment.